Hi, this is William Rollins of RileHair.com. Today we're speaking to Mr. Devin Richard of Bad Cog Comics. And they're an independent studio here in Houston, correct?
Correct.
And how many titles do you currently have right now?
Dude, something like what? 4 issues of Roscoe's, 3 issues of 13 Tribes, 3 issues of Edge of Blue. What that's 10 plus Insane Ops. So right now, right about 11 books.
Okay, so we've got a good amount of series going on with your series. And one thing you've been really consistent with, as far as I've known you and your work, has been crime comics,
Yeah.
like the Bounty Hunter books and those
Yeah,
kind of
well,
things. Well, thank you. Now, one thing I've seen in different publications is how when like the pulp gets popular again, crime comics get popular again.
Yeah.
Have you seen that kind of push for yourself and what you guys do, or?
We do everything, but with the crime books, one of the things that we like we have a new book getting ready to come out with Bad Cog
Right.
called Annie Up.
Okay.
And Annie Up will be a lot of different stuff. But with crime books, we're allowed to go a little bit further. I mean, Marvel, DC, they have limits.
Right.
When we do crime books and stuff, we kind of have to set our own limits because we can actually go too far being independent. We're the ones that are editing the books. So with a lot of my books, I'll put parental advisory. I'm looking for one right now. Oh yeah, parental advisory on it because of the language. But we try not to get too out there because you have to still realize it's a lot of kids
Right.
or teenagers. Let's not say kids, but teenagers that still read the stuff.
Right.
But like I was telling him, I was just looking at manga the other day and was shocked by some of the things that I was seeing
Understandable.
that was passing through a manga. I'm like, wait a minute. That ain't supposed to be going on. But with our books, we're allowed to actually push it. I'm starting to see image books, and a lot of the image books are like going a little further too. But with Marvel and DC, it's still not. They're only going so far, which is probably why independent books are like selling better right now.
Right. So, and also, I think one of the constraints you have being an independent publisher is, say you've got your hero that's the John Wick ripoff of the month.
Right.
You don't have to worry about if he's ever going to cross over with Superman or something like that. You can just write him off the next thing if you want to because it's your book.
Exactly.
And by having these compartmentalized, do you think that's also an edge you guys have because you can keep your books separate? You don't have to have constant crossovers just to keep things fresh.
Yeah, because there are some people, every time they write a story, they want the characters to meet each other, and you're trying to figure out, like, for instance, I just recently saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Batman, and I was going, that's kind of an interesting, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Crossover. But then I also had to realize that the artist and the writer that first did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the whole story came from Daredevil.
Right.
Okay, so I'm sitting there, I'm going, okay, we can let that one pass. We'll let that one pass.
Right.
But, little stuff, little books like Sonic meets Wolverine and all of that, you don't have to cross every character. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they are. It's getting ridiculous at some point.
And Devin, the way that you see things cycle, now that people kind of get more of a superhero fatigue, I hate to say that. I'm a superhero fan. I love them, but you see, and then you see like crime books or the independent sci-fi books start to pick back up again. It's almost like the when in the '70s people got sick of superheroes, they're going back to old pulp characters like the Avenger and those guys. So you kind of seen that resurgence yourself.
But it didn't have to get there. If we weren't, if they didn't push they're getting to the point now where it used to be good superheroes.
Yeah.
Now it's just everything. Anybody with a cape or anyone that they think that they can push and make sales off of, they're actually using. How many movies are we now seeing? And it's a villain. And it was a villain that should have been in the background. And they had the nerve enough to give him his own movie.
Like they're doing Clayface. was part of the Batman universe, that kind of
So a
thing.
lot of them,
Yeah.
it's like I was looking at Daredevil and the new Daredevil series, they were almost showing Bullseye more than Daredevil, and it's gotten to the point now that they're actually talking about giving Bullseye his own series. Why would you give Bullseye his own series? If you've ever read the comics, that's not a character that should be, you know what I'm saying, the hero.
Right, exactly. It should be somebody that is writing for other projects, maybe, but it shouldn't be a solo series.
A perfect example of that is if have you seen the Brave and the Hunter movie?
I did.
Okay, every villain from Spider-Man was in the Brave and the Hunter movie, and Spider-Man wasn't in the movie. You see, first of all, most people wouldn't have known who the Chameleon was, and a bunch of other background characters, and they put them all in there, and they almost tried to make it seem like they were, we're not going to say they were heroes, but they were the main characters, and you're going, this ain't going to do well. And it really didn't do that hot.
Yeah, and that's something going back to stuff like I've seen you written and other people have worked on, where there might be little bits of honor or nobility in a couple of villains, but villain's a villain, a hero's a hero. It's not. It's more. It's the way it used to be, where things were more clearly defined instead of making everybody, like you said, it seemed like everybody was a hero in the Craven movie when they shouldn't have been.
Right. And you're sitting down and you're going, okay, when you write a character, you want the character to either be a hero or a villain. We're getting too many people and they're screaming, well, this is an anti-hero. And their characteristics, when you actually start to look at the character, you're like, that's not something I would root for. That's why, like, if you do a character and they're somewhat of a villain, like a werewolf that's just loose, that character can't be the focal point. He can't be the main character because he's got too many hostilities and there's too much stuff that's just like a villain. So he can't be the lead character, and that's where they're going. They want to start making characters. You might as well make a book, and Joker is the lead character. Okay, how are you gonna make this character somewhat a hero? And it's the Joker.
Or like the Harley Quinn animated series. Anyone?
Yeah. Then you're sitting there and you're going, oh, these people are bad guys. Well, no, they're fun. No, all these characters are bad guys. They're not heroes. And that's one of the things when I write, I try, even when I write crimes, okay? Because I've always had an idea about a character, an actual character. And you find out he was trying to break into comic books, and he couldn't break into comic books behind printing and everything else, and he starts robbing banks and doing bad stuff to make the money to print his comic books. Okay, and I was like, that would be a cool urban story. You're like, dude. So he wanted to be a comic book artist, and Marvel and DC and all of them wouldn't let him in. So he literally started hitting banks and stuff to make the money so that he could print, he could distribute, he could do everything he wanted to do. Okay? But you still have to find somewhere in there, you're like, okay, how are we going to make that character a hero? And after I sat down and thought about it, I'm like, it's not coming like that. I'm not getting, even though he's doing what he's doing and it's funny, I'm not getting a hero from that character. And that's why I've never written that book.
And that's why, I think it's great that people like you are doing these kind of books, because fans like myself, even though I enjoy the superhero stuff, as I've gotten older and I've come to appreciate crime and pulp stories better, it's good to have a place I can go to and check these things out.
Right.
So I think I'm glad you guys are out there, Devin, because it gives us people something to read.
Somebody has to, because you still, like I said, when I was small, I'm like, what, 4 or 5, and I'm reading comics, and I'm learning to read from comics, and I'm learning different words from comics, and I'm learning from comics, but still in all, it's just like Lord of the Rings and all the old stuff. You have to know who the hero is and who the villain is. I don't like blurred lines where you can't tell, and then you're trying to figure it out. When you read Lord of the Rings and you read Star Wars, Vader is the villain and Luke is the hero. There's no blur in between there.
Or like, unlike what they do with the Amazon series, we won't talk about, the orcs were bad guys. There was no sympathy; they were all evil,
Right.
and they try to redo them as somehow.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, but the kids, you have to start thinking about people. You have to know who the villain is, who the good guy is, and with a lot of the, and that's one cool thing about the crime books. You know who the villain is and who the good guy is. There's no in between. We're getting too many books and it's in between. And you have characters and you're wondering. No. And a lot of the times when he writes, I'll go back and I'll say, now let me ask you something. Would the fans, would the public think this character was a hero, or would they think that he? Well, he had a chainsaw. Okay, at one time there was a code. Superheroes were not able to use guns. Okay, they did not kill people. Okay, there was rules that they had to follow.
Yeah.
Now there are no more rules. Why would my superhero have chainsaw hands and be running around cutting people up? And that's considered a superhero. Gotta have rules somewhere.
Yeah, or consequences. Like, for example, the John Wick movies. Even though he's an anti-hero, there's consequences for everything he did in his past life as an assassin. You see it build on him, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of stuff that don't show that anymore. Like you're talking, superhero with chainsaws killing people.
Right.
Consequences aren't shown for that anymore.
No.
Even though you think with the crime books or the Wick movies, you see that more happening, but everybody's ignoring it.
Yeah. Because I like John Wick, love the story, laugh my head off because every time you turn around and move, they're asking, well, are you back? And I was like, okay, so he used to be the world's greatest hitman, and that's supposed to be a hero. Love the story, got nothing against the story, but that was quite an interesting character. I mean, the first movie made sense. It was like, okay, he's getting all these people because of what they did to the dog that his wife gave him. Then they started building on that
Right.
for what, 4 more movies?
Right, and it was, and even though that's why I think I like the fourth movie the best because it showed everything he did come back on top of him.
Right.
Because the middle movies, although great action movies, he really didn't suffer the consequences of everything he did.
No.
And then you finally see it, and it's like, okay, that kind of settles everything.
Yeah.
And now they want to do another one.
Yeah, we got another one coming.
And
Plus, we have one with Donnie Yen because they liked his character so much. We have another evil hitman. He's about to get his movie now. So there's no telling how many of those are gonna be. And I'm like, a lot of the time, I'll sit down and I'll go, y'all, the kids, what heroes do they have? John Wick. No,
now,
no, not John Wick. Well, who else? And then you start asking questions and stuff, and they start telling you the most interesting characters, and you're like, "That's the character that you like the most." Yeah, he was. No, what about Captain America? I have so many people that say, "Dude, I'm not feeling Captain America." I understand what you're saying about Captain America, but because my whole thing was with the Avengers, and when he turned on the Avengers for Winter Soldier.
yeah,
And everybody kept saying, wait a minute, but he was supposed to be so good. And
yeah,
in the end, that wasn't a really player move.
yeah,
It was like you turned on everybody. You lied, okay? You hid stuff from Tony Stark, who helped you the whole time. And you were starting to have like dirty looks at Captain America at one point.
yeah. And speak along those lines, okay? Because we've been talking about clear villains and heroes. One of the complaints I heard of this last Superman movie, ignore this remake or whatever else, was that Lex Luthor was evil.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's usually people who they got mad that there was a clear bad guy doing bad things, and they made the main character as pure as possible, which he was years ago. That was an icon. That was who you looked up to as a kid because have good morals, pick up the weak, pick up, and now it's like, oh, that's so stupid. But they prefer almost villainous Snyder Superman, for some people's opinion, is to come back. I mean, what do you think's up with that? I mean, are we just that far gone, or
This is what I think. I think you need to put your cameras down and you need to go read some independent comic books because there is no way in the world you should have Snyder's Superman, this Superman. I just saw this series with Supergirl. Now we have some snotty chick coming that's playing Supergirl like Supergirl. I really don't care. How many times are we going to see Supergirl? How many times are we going to see Green Lantern? And then my favorite character, which is the most blurred character ever in DC, and he's my favorite, is Deathstroke.
Yeah.
And can you tell me if Deathstroke is a villain or a hero?
Not since the Marv Wolfman days. I can't.
Okay.
That's in the 80s when he was writing Titans.
When Deathstroke first came out, he was considered a villain. Then
he was the villain.
Then they had him train some of the Titans. Then he was over here and stuff. Now they're saying, and he never had anything to do with Batman. Now all of a sudden, he's one of Batman's number one villains. And I'm like, well, which is he? Because then you write the books, and when they write the books now, they just say that he's a superpowered mercenary, which once again puts him in that area. So he's not actually a supervillain, and he's not a superhero. Now we're just saying he's a mercenary, and he just does what he does for money. Okay, and I'm like, this is it's interesting. I just need him to be on one side of the fence.
But someone who takes money to kill people is an assassin. Is an assassin. Is an assassin.
That's what he is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so he's an assassin. Yeah, but for who? For whoever pays him. That's the one you're not getting. If Batman just paid him, he'd be on Justice League side. That is what he is. He is a gunfighter. And I'm like, I need, like with my books, I try when I write my books to make sure that you understand this is a hero, okay? Villains are villains. All this crossing and you can't figure out who is who. No. And I don't want kids and I don't want the people that are reading to be confused.
Right.
I want them to know who a hero is, who a villain is, because they still need to know. It's too many things that are like confusing and everybody can't figure it out anymore. And if you're gonna read, I like reading old stuff because back in the day, they sat down and said, okay, what's going on? They came to his house, slaughtered his family, killed the dog on the way out. He is going to end up being a hero, okay? And the people that did it, he's going after them. And that's how the Western went. and you're not sitting here and you're going, wait a minute. We got to go back. Why do we have to backtrack? Well, we find out that he was actually beating the dog before they actually came and killed the dog. And the reason the dog had one leg missing was because he cut the dog's leg off. He was eating the leg in the back. See, here we go with this confusing stuff. I need to know who my hero is, who my villain is. And then, honestly, it's actually gotten to the point where nobody wants to, like a guy today was saying in an interview, he said, if you have to use AI to write something, you didn't write it. Okay? Nobody actually wants to sit down and take time to do things. You'll have people and they're rushing to do a whole comic book and you're having to go back and re-edit it, and they're rushing so much that you're like, dude, why did you write that over and over and over again? If you just sit down and just take it in and just do it all. I mean, take your time with it. Get to know your character.
Right.
I had an idea for a character today, so new nobody's ever gonna ever get. I was gonna discuss it with him because it was so unique. I was sitting there going, wow. That was kind of over my head. I'm gonna have to actually sit down and write that character down because I don't ever forget it.
Right.
Because I was watching something and they were talking about all these airplanes that keep flying through the zone, and then they show up and they're like big blip, and then the next thing you know, here come a plane.
Yeah.
It's been 20 years, and they're trying to figure out where all these people went, and have been missing for 20 years, and they know the plane didn't have that much fuel. So I'm like, okay, we need to use that concept for one of our comic books.
That sounds neat. Be looking forward to it. Now, thank you for everything, Devin. Now, what appearances can we look for you in the near future? Where are you going to be at?
The next show we're gonna be at is Comic Palooza. Then we're gonna be at Space Con. We've never done. It's been years since
The one in San Antonio, right?
Yes, sir. It's been years since we did one in San Antonio. We're about to start one in San Antonio again. We're about to do a brewery.
Oh, neat.
August. Of course, we're going to Bell County.
Of course.
Okay, where everybody goes there. But we're also trying to figure out how to get to El Paso, because a bunch of people have told me to go to the cons in El Paso that they have pretty nice cons. So we're literally trying to just do Texas right now.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, Devin. Appreciate it, man.